Well, 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 Jim Campbell. The result is in. It is West Ham United 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. El Sacchio has finished in Lopetegui's favour. Do you think it was a bit harsh dubbing the game that? Is that disrespectful to two fine football men?
Yes, very much so. Very openly disrespectful to two fine football men. It also gave the impression, didn't it, that the stakes would be quite high and that whoever lost the game would be sacked at full time, which it could never quite live up to. But you worry for Gary, don't you? Just the manner of his expressions on the side. He always kind of looks like the most pained man in the world who's like kind of living on a knife edge. But it felt even more so tonight. It seemed extra animated, extra agitated. And I would be very surprised if he's there by the end of the week.
End of the week, blimey. Well, look, we'll get to O'Neill and what this result could mean for him and Wolves, although you've just, pretty much said it there. But yes, West Ham, it was a big win for them. It was a big old win. And Jarrod Bowen, of course, got the winner. He had a little scuffle at the end. The game did show something in the second half. The first half, it was quite cagey, wasn't it? I know Gomez had a chance that he might have done better with. But it was as if the pressure of the game and the profile of the game and the kind of the old El Sacchio chat around it, both players seem to be a little bit nervy for their manager, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the first half, West Ham still looked like the better side, but they didn't look particularly dangerous, did they? And I think that was it was quite toothless from both teams in the first half. And I think you're right. That sort of caginess probably comes from not wanting to make a mistake, which is essentially has been a big problem for both teams and is why they're kind of under the pressure they are. But it did come to life a bit more in the second half.
Thank goodness it did, because I think if it had ended 0-0, everyone would have thought, well, with regards to the two managers, it's
them all.
So, kind of. Do they both stay or do they both go? The first goal was scored by Thomas Souček, of course.
Yeah,
a little word to the wise: do mark him quite tightly at corners.
Yeah, because this keeps coming up on Ramble Reacts, isn't it?
It does.
People keep not doing that. Although in this case, to be fair to Max Kilman. He did a really good job of essentially getting in the way of the Wolves defenders without actually impeding them.
Yeah.
So it was like a one-man wall that gave Souček that space, and that's obviously deliberate. And that's actually thought was really smart play from West Ham there. So I think they deserve credit for that.
Thomas Souček took a little bit of advice from John Barnes, didn't he? Get round the back.
Yes,
and there he
exactly.
was to loop it over. An enjoyable goal from Souček, as we know he's got that type of prowess in the air, although I don't know if his feet even left the floor. It was a nice one. Good celebration as well. And of course, I'm quite sure when he shouted at the camera, he said something to Michail Antonio,
yes,
which we would see later, of course, a tribute with Jarrod Bowen scoring as well. So that got the game going. But not long after that, Wolves actually responded pretty well, which was a surprise. I thought that, is that it? Are we going to see anything? But no, they did rally. And time will tell, but one can read into this as, I know they're in the situation they're in, so they need points, of course. But one could say, they responded, and is it too much to say they were playing for the manager, because they got themselves back in the game with a lovely goal from Matt Doherty.
Yeah, it was kind of the only real moment of quality from him in the game, wasn't it? It was
Great
obviously
finish.
A problem in itself. It was a brilliant finish. Yeah, it felt like a bit of a lightning strike, didn't it? It came out of didn't really feel like it was in line with a run of play.
Do you know? I thought Wolves responded. They started to come at West Ham a bit. They were looking. They were trying to turn the screw and go, right. We need something here. Yes, a finish of that quality was.
Suppose they had the denied penalty shout very, very shortly before that, didn't they?
That
the
is
first
Wolves.
one of the two.
That is Wolves.
Indeed, that is Gary O'Neill and possibly Wolves. I guess we'll find out sooner or later if it's just him or it is them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I suppose you're right. They were putting on a little bit more pressure, but they just couldn't sustain it, could they? And of course, to concede so soon after getting that equaliser, it just sums up what the problem is, isn't it? There's a sense of that it's all kind of hopeful, and there's very, very little control.
That Jarrod Bowen goal was a beauty. I'm going to say, Jim Campbell, I'm going to say this. It was Lionel Messi-esque.
Very nice. Yeah, it was certainly a goal from a man's left foot. So I guess we're going to have to give you that.
Come on, it was a beautiful.
It was brilliant.
Goal.
It was absolutely brilliant. And I think actually the moment of it was really important, wasn't it? Obviously, Bowen's a really, really consistent player, and he steps up for West Ham a lot. And that it was really important that they just put the nonsense of having let Wolves equalise to bed, and he did that with aplomb. That was how he hit the ball with disdain almost, didn't he? It was one of those goals where it was like, Wolves, shut up,
the nonsense of Wolves equalising.
But that was how he seemed to approach that passage of play. Just like, get out of the way, we haven't got time for you.
Yeah,
2-1, shut up.
I thought it was. I mean, I thought he showed great composure. The way he sort of feigned to probably cross or shoot whatever, jinx past the defender, out the feet and curled it in. It was so tidy. It was glorious play from Jarrod Bowen, which is why he's one of the main men there. I mean, he's one of the best players you could argue in their recent history. He's that good and has got that much about him. And of course, that was enough to win the game in the end.
I do think Guedes should have done better in that passage of play. Actually, he kind of it's very much a striker's attempt at defending that, wasn't it?
But I think that's it with Wolves. You look at the players that they have, and they've got moments in them. They've got at times performances and so on, but it's all very bitty. And you think, that player should have done a little bit more there. And he's got something there, and it's not quite showing. You look at the way Matthias Cunha played at Fulham when they hammered Fulham. I think flipping Nora, again, the class he's got in those boots, but we don't see it that much. Now, I'm not. If he doesn't get fed, if he doesn't get the service and so on. But there's a lot of players in that team where you think they do have a bit of something about them. It's just so bitty. And
they can't thread it together.
Well, they can't, exactly, yeah. And I mean, towards the end of the game, they were coming at it and they were creating little openings here and there. I mean, Mario Lemina had a chance, which I thought he might do better with, because again, I think Lemina's technique is very good.
Yeah.
We know what he's about. He plays. He's had a funny career, Lemina. He's never settled anywhere too long, and he's never really settled in a particular position too long.
He's a roving tackle, isn't he? No, there's more to his game than that. Obviously, you're right to say his technique is very good, but he is just like a bear trap wandering around the pitch, just trying to get that ball off someone else.
Yeah, I mean, he has been described as an angry man before.
Oh yeah, he was furious at full time, wasn't he?
He was.
But
furious.
The thing is, he was working his socks off, actually, wasn't he? Like more than any other player out there. He was so determined to try and turn this around, and it must be incredibly frustrating when essentially you can't kind of put any passage of passing together that makes that possible. So that was the main problem, wasn't it? Wolves' passing was so sloppy tonight, and just never quite there. Players making runs that were slightly too fast or too slow, and they just couldn't thread it all together.
No, and it was why I thought it was a bit of a shame for Lemina when he had that chance. I don't know what the XG would be on it, but I'm not saying it wasn't a sitter or anything, but it was a chance, and I thought that would have been lovely for him and a bit of vindication for him and the effort he's put in, certainly.
I think he was also very unlucky with the corner that led to the goal, because I think it did actually come off of, I think it was Wan-Bissaka, and it was given as a West Ham corner and they score from it. It's like that is just Wolves' luck, isn't it?
It is. It very much is. And Wolves, there was a penalty shout after I forget how many penalty shouts they have with
two.
Yeah,
just the two.
Just the two. Okay, the second one, when it looked like there was a foot on foot bit of action, which can be very painful. If anyone's been trod on by a football boot before, even if it's moulds, my goodness, it could be a bit of a nasty nick. It was waved away. It wasn't given. I thought maybe, but you thought it would have been a bit harsh.
Yeah, I do, because it's kind of away from the action at that point, isn't it?
You ever had your foot stood on with a football boot, Jim?
Yeah, it's not necessarily about that, though, is it?
It's for me. Brings back terrible memories. And that's just my own teammates. Why are you all doing this? Well, it wasn't given, and Wolves weren't given a penalty. They quite literally cannot. Well, not literally. That would be cheating. They cannot buy a penalty.
No, they can't buy a penalty, as you say. They're not
Nor
allowed
should
to.
you be able to.
And nor should you be allowed to, indeed.
Mohamed Kudus had 2 goals ruled out for offside, so neither of them count. He did his little City Down celebration, though. And bubbles were released, which is, I know it sounds silly, but I always forget that is one of like the little quirks of the Premier League. You know, like in other leagues where where you think, oh, you know, good old South America or good old wherever, some part of the world, like in MLS, for example, it is, it's Portland Timbers, right? They do the cutting of the log when that goes in. You think, and this kind of thing in faraway leagues never happens. It's like, but it does. West Ham, they blow bubbles in the air when they score a goal, and I always forget that. And then when they do score, and I'm like, what's that? Oh, it's the bubbles. Yeah. Do you think though that if a goal is chalked out by VAR, someone should just go around and quickly pop the ball?
The ball boys have to get on that. It's a lesson about. You can't take anything for granted in life.
No, you can't. But when Kudus had got, I think was it his second goal he scored? He changed his boots during the offside check.
There's a lot of it going on, like Michael Carrera at the weekend.
Indeed. Well, yeah, you said there's a lot of it going on. Any other examples, Jim?
2 examples of it going on.
Right, okay.
It's more than there was last week.
Okay. That we know of.